Hello, welcome to the ADGM Think podcast. My name is Hamad Al-Fahim. I'm part of the business development team at ADGM and I handle the asset management cluster. And today we have Ziad Chaaban, the managing director of Citco Middle East.
Thank you very much for having me today, Hamad.
Pleasure to have you.
To start off, could you tell us a bit about Citco and yourself?
Of course. So I'm part of Citco Middle East, as you have mentioned. I look after the office here in Abu Dhabi. Citco is a global administrator, and we have been known to be the administrator for alternative investors, which means anything to do with hedge funds, private equities, real assets, real estate, infrastructure, etc. And our focus really is on that side of the industry, which is the alternative assets. And what we do is mainly the administration, which is really divided into two or three different parts. But essentially, we are the accountant and the valuation and investor relations for every institutional investor that you can think of, which covers things from sovereign wealth funds, institutional clients like insurance companies, family offices, etc., to your money managers, private equity, hedge funds, real estate, etc. Our presence here is since 2021 as an office in the ADGM, but the company dates back to the 1930s. So we are one of the oldest administrators globally.
No, perfect. Thank you, Ziad. If we could start off with the overarching trends that Citco has seen so far in quarter one across its global hedge fund client base.
Of course. So I'm sure you've seen the quarterly report that we issue. As I mentioned, we are, when it comes to alternative investors, and the hedge fund industry is the main part of the alternative investment industry, we are the administrator of choice. And we, on a global level, we have over $1 trillion of assets just on the hedge fund scene. So on a quarterly basis, we issue a report just shows how the trends are, right? And the trends go from the performance to asset raising, etc. And so one thing for sure is the performance this year has been nothing less than stellar, right? The average hedge fund that we look after have returned something close to 7.5%, right? And obviously there's a range of these returns depending on the strategy, the size of the fund, etc. But for sure, quarter one of 2024 has been the best since the start of the pandemic. It's been a stellar year for the alternative investment industry so far.
Wow, that's great to hear as well for ADGM.
As well for ADGM.
And what about from a regional perspective? What is Citco seeing in the UAE from the hedge fund side?
The UAE in general and the Middle East, I gotta say, is still new to the hedge fund scene. So we've been here we've been present in the UAE for almost 10 years, but really our presence expanded significantly in 2021 when we opened our ADGM office. And our focus here, even though on a global level we are known to be very much of a hedge fund administrator, but our focus in the Middle East, and because of how the economy is and how the industry is more on institutional clients, so the likes of sovereign wealth funds, family offices, etc. The hedge fund scene is still new, right? And I think where the encouraging factors that we are seeing is this move of global hedge funds from other markets to the UAE, being Dubai, being Abu Dhabi. Eventually, it's one market. Definitely, there's been a very significant increase in number of hedge funds and assets that are being managed from this region. I remember I was reading an article earlier in the year where the DFSA was mentioning that this is the record year in terms of new applicants. The ADGM, there was an article today or yesterday on Bloomberg mentioning that the assets in the ADGM have more than doubled over the past few months. It's a very encouraging thing to see, to be honest, and I'm hopeful that this trend will continue. And I'm actually quite certain that with the changes that's been happening, the infrastructure in Abu Dhabi or in the UAE in general, or the direction that the ADGM is taking in terms of encouraging a lot of these global managers to relocate here, that this trend is really set to continue and hopefully accelerate.
Thank you. If this is the case for hedge funds, how about the wider alternative assets industry? What trends are you seeing at the moment in the Middle East?
While hedge funds, I feel that the growth of hedge fund is more of global managers moving into the UAE. And it's not of an organic growth of hedge funds. But when we talk about private equity, the real estate investors, it's a little bit of a different story. And you feel that there is, and I think this is over the past 15 years, that you see more local players, local managers on the private equity side especially, and to a certain extent on real estate, trying to emerge from within the economy as opposed to moving into Abu Dhabi or the UAE at large. I feel that also that trend is going to continue. Typically, the private equity is long-term capital that's locked for a period of time. So it's a little bit more difficult to raise that amount of money in a typical environment. That being said, over the past few years, because of the large volatility in liquid assets, there's been a higher appetite from investors, especially, I gotta say, the regional investors, in investing in private assets, whether it's private equity or real estate or infrastructure.
Before we wrap this up, can you tell us why Citco chose UAE as its base and touch on what Citco's growth ambitions are in the region?
Absolutely, good question. Citco is, as I told you, it's an old company. It's probably the oldest administrator in the world, right? And historically, the focus has been, as you have with a lot of these large companies, on developed markets. And the company made its decision that they want to expand into new markets, and the Middle East was identified as a main market for us. We started with a smaller office and to see how our assets would grow and how our presence will evolve. And over the past 10 years, we have moved from our Middle Eastern assets that we look after of around, I would say, we started with less than $1 billion in assets under administration. Today, I confidently can say that we look after over $200 billion of assets from the Middle East, right? And as our size grew, we needed to have an on-the-ground presence, because we really believe that the service becomes better when we are closer to our clients, right? It's one thing to for our client pick up the call, pick up the phone, give us a call, come to our office, we go to their office, versus someone who is a few thousand miles away, different timing, different time zones, different holidays. So we've decided that we needed to have headquarters here. And when we looked around the region, the UAE was what really made sense, right? From whether it's the physical infrastructure, whether it's the regulatory infrastructure, the common law, the ADGM as a free zone, the DIFC as a free zone, and the general trend of growth of the economy and the support that we get from whether the government or the government entities has been really instrumental in directing us. So in 2021, we came in and we said, where is this place that we want to set up in? And after several meetings with the ADGM, the ADGM were incredibly supportive, right? And they really, I would say, made our life easier in terms of setting up, in terms of from a regulatory perspective to a real estate perspective to a hiring and support perspective. They were really instrumental. So in 2021, we've reached around $120 billion in assets from this region. And we decided that really the place to be in is in Abu Dhabi.
I agree with you as well in terms of the point of the presence, physically being present in the region and being close to your clients, being close to the support. That's a great added value, and people I feel appreciate it more in the region. And final question, how is ADGM supporting your clients, and so far what has their feedback been?
I have to say we have, as Sitco, we have around 50 offices around the world in so many different jurisdictions. In every main jurisdiction you can think about, we have an on-the-ground office. And the feedback is our interaction with the ADGM as an authority and as a regulator has been one of the best that we have gone through, right? Obviously, as with every new venture, there's ups and downs, but in general, there is a lot of dialogue between us and the ADGM as an authority and the regulator. And that has been incredibly supportive. And when we opened the office here, as I mentioned in 2021, we have around $120 billion of assets that we're looking after. 3 years or 2.5 years down the line, we have almost doubled our assets, right? And the reason for that is, one, our presence here in the ADGM, closer to the clients. And when I talk about clients, I'm not talking about only UAE clients, I'm talking about regional clients, right? And the support that we get on a continual basis from the ADGM, like this is really being an example, right? We are here because we can add value to the infrastructure of the ADGM, and the ADGM also sees that such a thing is value addition to the infrastructure. So I gotta say, the support that we got over the past 3 years from the ADGM has been incredible.
Thank you, Ziad, for joining the ADGM podcast. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in. And hopefully we'll see you soon again.